Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Um, I'd like to welcome everybody to the uh, first ever 2020 PB virtual business meeting. Um, Looks like people are still logging on, but the time here is um, 12:03 Central Standard, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. And in doing so, reciting the mission to increase the number of culturally responsible Black individuals who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. So, welcome everybody. Uh, we have an exciting virtual opportunity today. Uh, Today would have been a lot of us exiting National Convention, but due to circumstances out of our control, we've had to adjust. So, I thank you all for being able to attend this virtual meeting, especially to handle NSBE business as we must continue to do. Um, we do have to elect our new officers for the new NSBE year. So we're providing a platform to better assist that and give you guys as members the opportunity to actually reach out to the candidates and ask the questions as we were if we were in a face-to-face meeting. So I thank you guys for participating. This should be fun. I hope you got your water, um, your coffee, or whatever you need on the side. I guess please exit as you must. And with that, um, Dr. Archer and I have a couple presentations, couple slides to share with you, and then we'll get straight into the business. Dr. Archer, if you can go to that next slide real quick. Or can I drive? All right. One of the biggest things that I guess, regret for the time of not being able to meet face to face is to really acknowledge the people who've been standing on the ground floor with myself and the PEO, the PEB and the Special Interest Group SIG directors. They've done an outstanding job this year, just catering to the members' needs, running their region strong, and actually being positive advocates for the professional brand of the society. So I know we might, see most of you guys in August, but I do want to use this time to really say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for just the professionalism, the determination, the heart, and the love that you guys have shared through NSBE. All the phone calls, all the sidebars, et cetera, et cetera. It shows in just the performance that we have and the increased love of NSBE. So with that, I want to publicly thank you in front of this small group, and hopefully probably thank you all as well. So thank you guys for all that you do. I know we got another month and a half after this to kind of wrap up some things and actually be a different support system to this new board. So I hope that we continue to stay energized to finish that off. But thank you, and thank you. Uh, Next slide. All right.
Sorry, we're skipping the slide here.
What? Okay.
One of the slides is skipping. No, that's it. You had another slide though, did you?
Yeah, it was one there. If I mean, we can touch back on it. It was really just to talk about just the climate. As I mentioned, just to touch bases of the current climate that we're dealing with. I know it's requiring NSBE as a whole to make these hard decisions and smart choices on how we interact, what events and things that we move forward with, how do we consolidate to adjust to the current climate. So know that NSBE and the NSBE leaders that you've elected are doing that as best as we can. This thing is super dynamic. So knowing we're putting in a lot of extra volunteer hours to try to get this thing under control. So thank you for that. This has also required us to conform to the new normal of different virtual communications. Um, Zoom stock is crazy now because of these increased meetings. Fortunately, we've been using Zoom even before the COVID-19, but Zoom, Hangout, other things as far as platforms we're thinking about using for virtual conferencing and things like that. NSBE is actively researching the best resource to still do business. So just keep your eyes open and emails and just social media just to see, because everything is ever changing. And then we're just trying to be more efficient and purposeful in all that we do so that we do get the messaging across as quickly as possible. So that was the other slide, just to talk about our current world climate, and to really just let you know that we are working as well as possible to continue to service the membership. So with that, Dr. Archer, turn it over to you to get us situated with this Q&A and let us know how things are going to go.
All right. Let me pull up the slides again. 1 second here. Can y'all see that? Do y'all see the slides?
Yes, sir.
All right. Great. So is there any, you finished with this slide, correct?
Yes, sir. You can go, you can proceed on.
All right. So welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us for this next part of the call. This is where we move into the candidate Q&A. And so what I'm going to do today is basically run through the candidates. For those who don't know, Dr. Reginald Archer, I'm the Professional Executive Board Parliamentarian, and so I'm going to be facilitating the Q&A event this afternoon. What we're going to do is I'm going to first talk about the delegate schedule. So the delegate meeting schedule is as follows. For those delegates that are on the line and all the chapter leaders communicating with your delegates, you should have all participated in the regional meetings that have happened this past week. And thank you all for being able to put those together so quickly. And really, really good events happened across all 6 regions. And voting will be occurring. If it hasn't occurred already in your region, the voting will begin. The rest of the voting will begin this afternoon and will continue on until the March 31st. So this is just a schedule. I want to run through this real quick just so everybody understands how the voting would work. Each region, delegates from each region will have to vote on your regional candidates individually, and then the national candidates is a separate vote as well. So again, here are the time frames. Like I said, the voting should have already begun in most of the regions. If it has not, then you should receive an email this afternoon. As well, the delegates will receive an email with their username and password to get onto the e-ballot system. That should happen this afternoon. If your chapter does not have delegates in the system by this afternoon, then you will not be able to vote. So just wanted to make sure everybody understands that. So let's go ahead and talk about how this schedule will work for this particular event today. This is basically a quick rundown of what you can expect for the candidate Q&A. So we will have candidates, each candidate will get about 1 minute for opening statement. And then for the candidates that are running unopposed, so program zone candidates or college initiative chair and secretary candidate, will get about 10 minutes of Q&A and then 1 minute for closing statement. And then we'll move on to the opposed candidates, which will also get 1 minute each for introduction statement, and then 30 minutes total for Q&A. And once a question is asked, so the questions will be asked in the Q&A section of Zoom. So as All the viewers, all the attendees for this event, you should be able to see an area in the Zoom platform where you can ask a question. So you can ask a question to the panelists, and then I will read the questions to the panelists, to the candidates, and then give them an opportunity to answer. Once they begin answering the question, they'll have about a minute or so to answer the question, and then the following candidate for the opposed position will get that same amount of time to answer the question. And then that will alternate. So if one of the candidates answers this question number 1 first, that candidate will answer the next question second. And we'll go back and forth with that for about 30 minutes. And then we'll move on to the candidate for chair-elect. And that will be the same type of setup, a minute and a half opening statement, 15 minutes of Q&A, and then a minute and a half closing statement. And then I'll follow up with any other voting instructions, pretty much just reiterating what I just mentioned for the delegates. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and meet the candidates and get started. The first candidate is Ms. Victoria Hills, who is running for PB College Initiative Chairperson. So Ms. Victoria, you have the floor. You have 1 minute for opening statement. And I won't yell time or anything. I'll probably just mute you guys if you're going over.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, good morning and good afternoon. I'm Victoria Hills. I'm currently based in Region 2, but originally from Region 4. My NSBE experience exceeds beyond, I guess, like my years that I am. But I started in NSBE Junior, and now I'm clearly a professional in the District of Columbia chapter, professionals chapter. And I'm really looking forward to being the PB Collegiate Initiative Chairperson, because I have a strong passion and desire to ensure that our students of color, particularly engineers, advance their careers in engineering. My goal is really to make sure that recent graduates become professional members, and also ensure that more students are prepared when they enter their engineering careers in corporate America. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So do we have any questions for Ms. Hills? Okay, looks like we have a question. So on the ballot, there's a proposal to make graduate students a professional capital M member. How do you see graduate students interacting with professionals?
Can you repeat that question one more time?
On the ballot, there is a proposal to make graduate students a professional capital M member. How do you see graduate students interacting with professionals?
So I was a graduate student at Michigan State University. I feel that graduate students kind of serve a dual purpose. They serve as individuals who have experience in industry, in most instances in engineering, and they also serve as individuals who are aspiring to become professionals. I feel as though, like, if a graduate student is also a professional member, that gives them more access to participate in the professionals events and activities that we're going. And it also takes them out of the mind frame that they are a student, but puts them more in the mind frame that they are more of an advanced professional, or a professional that's obtaining an education. So I feel that, you know, that this is their opportunity to not only have the student hat, but also prepare themselves for that professional career aspiration that they're aspiring to have.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for that question. Another question from, a couple of questions coming up. This question is from Ray Nesby, TCPC. Is that Twin Cities? Why do you believe there is a drop-off of Nesby members graduating college and not immediately joining the professionals chapters? What else can we do besides making that first year free to encourage continuation into a professional chapter?
Yeah, this is a great question, and one that I actually asked the Howard chapter when I went to visit. I think one of the biggest reasons that students don't matriculate over into the professionals is that they see NSBE as a collegiate activity and not more so something that's going to advance their career. I think one of the biggest things that we can do, as especially me in my position as the CI chair, nationally, is to empower our professional chapters to change the mindset surrounding what professional membership looks like. It's not just a place you go to like once you graduate, it's a place you go to further your career. So it's no longer about it being the social aspect, it's about the career aspect that you're trying to achieve over time. So we need to pretty much promote getting certifications and why those certifications are important in your career. We need to promote being able to advance your career by advancing your network. And just that's how I think we're going to be able to change that paradigm and that mindset shift with our graduating seniors.
All right, good, thank you. The next question is, okay. Sorry. The next question is, how do you plan to help matriculate collegiate members programmatically outside of the graduating seniors reception?
Yeah, so for me, I believe the biggest way that we can matriculate more students and get them more engaged is through mentorship. That is one of the pieces that I think we have talked about a lot as a society, but we haven't made action towards it. And this idea of paying it forward is one of those incentives and initiatives that I want to make sure that we execute. But outside of the graduating seniors reception, I believe that mentorship and engaging other current professionals in that process, and also teaching graduating seniors how to be a mentor, right? Because that's the whole idea, is that you're graduating, now you got to pay it forward. So it no longer becomes this idea that like, I'm done, my job is done. The narrative becomes, now you're paying it forward, you're giving back. How do you do that? Let us train you on how to, mentor other people once you're done with the process.
Okay, thank you. Now we have a question from Solomon Mason. And just before I ask this next question, I know some of you are asking questions in the chat box. If you would try your best to ask the questions using the question and answer box, that way they don't get lost in the shuffle. So I'll get to a couple of questions in the chat box in a second. But this question is from Solomon Mason. How do you plan to help matriculate? Oh, that's what I just answered, sorry. Next one's from Carrie Jordan. Dr. Carrie Jordan, in your platform, you speak about preparing recent grads to start careers in engineering. How do you envision collaborating with the PEB Programs Chair and the TechX Chair on this work?
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me okay, Reggie?
Yes.
Okay, good, because my keep saying internet is unstable and I was going to call it from my phone. But can you repeat the question one more time?
In your platform, you speak about preparing recent grads to start careers in engineering. How do you envision collaborating with the PEB Programs Chair and TechX Chair on this work?
Yeah, I think that, when I think about preparedness, I think about the idea of like understanding what industry you want to go into and what are the tools you need to be successful. And I think with the programs chair, understanding what the vision is for the professionals and understanding what the vision is for how we plan to engage our professionals programmatically. And then with the technical excellence chair, it really comes down to understanding what initiatives and goals they have and marrying the two with my own ideas in terms of what I've seen works to prepare like my current engineers when they're going into their jobs and what I've seen work for myself. I think it's really this idea of coming together to form an idea and not necessarily using what I have solely as my thoughts on preparedness. And when it comes to preparedness, I really think it boils down to, do you really understand what industry you're going into? And when it comes to that industry, how and what do you need in terms of tools? What are those tools you need to be successful? And that comes from, again, the mentoring piece and understanding like what types of certifications are necessary, PE, all these different types of certifications, because that's what's going to make you successful.
Okay. All right. Let me grab one of these questions from Rashida Lewis. What does programming look like to increase recent grads' preparedness for an engineering career?
So in terms of the programming, I think there's a couple different components to this. I think the first part of it, though, is I really want to understand what we've done in the past and what we've done that's been successful and what has been unsuccessful. And I think that a lot of that understanding is going to come once I'm in the role. But when I think about the types of programming, one of the ideas that I've worked with our current local CI chair on is to have a slate of programs that local chapters can conduct that focus on a couple key areas. So whether that's resume reviews, whether it's interviewing, have those staple workshops and programs available for our professional chapters to execute. Because once we do that, then this idea of it being a streamlined approach across the society is extremely beneficial. And also in terms of preparing for their engineering career, I think that mentoring piece is so important. Personally, I wouldn't be as successful in my career if I didn't have mentors. So streamlining the way we do things as a society professionally, and also having those mentors to help guide students in their careers. That's what's really gonna help. And that's what's really gonna be the programming approach I take.
All right, thank you. Do you have plans to work with the NSBE Young Technical Professionals? Oh, is that the answer? Did we just answer that one? Well, do you have plans to work with the NSBE Young Technical Professionals, perhaps starting a mentorship program? So you just talked about the mentorship program a little bit, but the mentorship program with NSBE seniors.
So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not familiar with the young technical professionals. I might have missed something, but needless to say, if that's something that exists across the society, then yes, of course, I think that makes the most sense to work with them. But also adding that piece in that we do need to start talking to our chapters to understand, like, what do they see as areas that their undergraduate students have said to help them be successful. So a lot of my approach, what I want to take is to understand where the gaps are first, and then try to fill them in with a solution and get people on board. But this is a 2-year position. So my first year, I'm really going to focus on understanding the why behind a lot of things. And then I really want to focus that next year on getting the right systems in place. And I want to be 100% transparent about that. Like, this year is really going to focus a lot on understanding the why behind a lot of what we do.
Right. When in your platform, you speak about recent graduate preparedness for starting their careers. So what do you currently use as a metric for preparedness, or what metric would you develop to demonstrate what winning looks like? Considering that engineers seek careers in industry, academia, and government. This is a question from Arthur Edge, director of the HiSig.
Can you repeat that one more time?
So in your platform, you speak about, and let me just tell everyone, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left for the question. So I'm going to close the questioning for this candidate here. We have about 3 questions left, and I'm going to pose those questions to her, but I won't take any more questions after that. So this question is, in your platform, you speak about recent graduate preparedness for starting their careers. What do you currently use as a metric for preparedness, and what metric would you develop to demonstrate what winning looks like?
So again, when I think about this idea of being prepared, I have to reflect on myself, right? When I think about how confident I felt as an engineer going into my career, I thought about, do I have the technical acumen to do it? Yes, because I just got a degree in engineering. Do I have the ability to have the social acumen? Those are things that get developed along the way. And do I have the like the certifications and things of that nature? When I think of preparedness, ideally, I want to break it down into a couple different buckets. Have I outlined those buckets quite yet? Not exactly, but that's something I want to work with the programs chair to do, because it's beyond just me at this point, and re-entering back into the CI role this year, or the collegiate initiative role this year, has really kind of illuminated what are some of the pitfalls and gaps I'm noticing with our students of color going into their professional career. So that's one of those things I'm going to really work towards this year, and establishing those metrics. But I don't have metrics at the moment, because I want it to be a collaborative effort.
Okay, and speaking of metrics, I'm going to blend these last couple of questions here. So when you think about the PB CI chair and what they've done, what was the most successful program, or what is the most successful program that you've seen in PB CI chair do, and what are some areas of opportunity? And I'm going to just ask the last question also, I think it's related, but how do you measure success in this position? So when your term is done, what will be your legacy?
Okay, so I'll address the first one first. And my have to repeat the next one after. But in terms of successful programming, I've been in NSBE for, let's say probably 8 years, 9 years, probably more than that, about 8 years. And I've watched the graduating senior reception go from a small room to this big concept that we celebrate our Black graduates. And honestly, that's one of the things I've seen be the most successful throughout my time in NSBE. I've seen it transform to be something people are proud of, not just a place they go to get free food from, right? Now that we've done that, now it's time for us to really focus on what I would consider the real professional piece. And that's like, when you think about students who are interviewing at companies, what are the perceptions companies are getting of our students? Why are they coming to our conferences for our students? We make sure we understand that and make sure our students understand why companies are coming to get students from NSBE and recruit them. And also make sure they're prepared for that. And again, a lot of that comes from being on the recruiting side. Like, I'm experiencing students who are unprepared, and I want to make sure that moving forward, we have students who are prepared. I think one of our greatest opportunities as in the CI role and as a CI position, in the CI position, is like in Region 4, we have like boutique upgrade you, having students who are like, they may have to come get a new outfit, or doing our resume reviewing. Like, I think resume reviewing and the like mock interviews, that's one of the areas that I think we have the greatest opportunities to make extremely successful. So when I think about my time, once I'm done being CI chair, I would love to see us have functioning resume reviews conducted by the professionals, not companies coming in and doing it, but our professionals taking the initiative to pay it forward to our students to review resumes, do mock interviews at conferences. Because when they see us, doing that, it instills something in them. Just like when you're at work and you see directors who are Black, it's the same experience that I want them to feel like they want to pay it forward and give that same experience back to students. So to wrap it all up, I believe once my term is up in 2 years, I want to see us successfully hosting, as NSBE professionals, hosting resume reviews, mock interviews at convention or at these regional conferences for our students.
All right. Thank you for that. And we'll get about 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just want to say I'm really passionate about the role. I'm passionate about ensuring that our students are prepared to go into their careers. And I really want to make sure that like our membership increases, not because we've done something, in terms of just arbitrarily, but because students feel there's a need to pay it forward for upcoming years in NSBE. So that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Victoria Hills, candidate for College Initiative Chairperson. Thank you. So our next candidate is a candidate for Secretary. And let me get this slide up. Here we go. So welcome, Mr. Townsend Brown. Please take some time and give us your opening statement.
Okay, can you guys see me? Okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Townsend Brown. I'm running for your PEB secretary. A little bit about me. I am born and bred in Region 5. Currently a part of the NSBE Professionals of Lockheed Martin chapter here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Previous NSBE experience, I currently serve as the Region 5 chair. Served as chair of my chapter, served in telecoms of the chapter. Just some things that I wanted to cover when talking about being a secretary. Like I said, from listening from Victoria, I echo almost everything she said about needing to promote our professionals. And the aspect that I'm really looking forward to is how do we brand ourselves as professionals going forward in this next decade. Sitting on the boards, I've had a lot of discussion about the professionals' role in NSBE. We made the point earlier that a lot of collegiates see NSBE as a collegiate organization and they lose interest once they graduate. Well, I have the unique experience where I actually come from the reverse. I never did NSBE in college. I knew about it, but it actually didn't make more sense to me until I was a professional. And so my role and my goal in this position is to help others see that aspect of what NSBE brings as a professional and be able to expand upon that throughout our membership, whether you're a professional looking for an organization or whether you're a collegiate looking to for your next step. So with that being said, a little bit about me. We can go into more as questions go on, but thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Townsend. So if there are any questions, again, please post them in the question and answer box. Give a couple of minutes. Any questions from any of the panelists?
Somebody, I brought my water just in case.
All right. Closing statements. Here's the question. We have a question. So in your opinion, where are the challenges in our documentation and what process improvement ideas do you have to improve our documentation?
Oh, that's a great question, Kerry. The challenges in our documentation that I found is that we tend to have most of the knowledge somewhere, but it's scattered across our Google Drives, our chapter local resources, our website that's out there that has some things. And so it's a challenge I've seen to gather everything in one location and to disseminate that information. And not only, gather it all together, but have somebody manage that and make sure it stays up to date year over year. Because, one other thing is I can find information, but it's 5-6 years out of date. So one of the things I'm looking at doing, and we started that in our M Zone as regional chairs, is having people manage certain areas of document repositories. And so one of my goals is to, with this chapter checklist, and we use the term toolkit a lot, but have a place on the website, on some place that's accessible that, hey, here's the one location as a chapter. Here's everything I need to do from day one. I want to start a chapter to year 15. I'm looking to see how can I reach the platinum level of being a chapter, what all the documentation, what all the things I need to hit on my checklist. So my job and my goal is to really get this repository together, make sure I gather all the documentation, get it up to date, have somebody manage it, and have it in a location that is continuously broadcasted.
Thank you. One of the next questions is, how will you collect meaningful and actionable data to inform how to best brand the professionals?
How will I collect meaningful and actionable data? I think we have a mechanism in place. We just need to figure out how to maybe not promote it better, but utilize it better once we get information, and that's our chip forms. We already have chapters today sending in information on what programs are working best, lessons learned, things that are working for them at a chapter level. And we need to now come up with a way of saying, okay, we've looked through all these things. Let's sit together with the committee, rank through them, say, hey, yeah, this looks like a great idea, or this looks like something that's happening in Region 3 that somebody in Region 6 may be able to use. We need to put all that stuff together and package it up. But I think we already have a platform that does that. Also, we did the professionals survey that went out at the beginning of the NSBE year. I think we got some great and valuable information, and I know as a board we've been working heavily to implement some of those ideas. So I think we have a good starting point on collecting that meaningful and actionable data. I think now it's just time to figure out, okay, what are steps we can take, whether it's 1 year, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years away, that we can put some of these plans in action.
Okay, the questions are rolling in now.
Yep, all right.
So as the lead of the Comm Zone, share some of your innovative ideas to share info throughout the chapter to ignite the passion for NSBE.
I want to give a big shout out to the Comm Zone this past year, especially to Kia and Maurice. They did an excellent job keeping our social media up to date, sending out information, things like that. I think the next step we do is we take it interactive, where it's not just us sharing information out, but it's a collection of information where maybe chapters send us information and we have some kind of live event where we're actually connecting at a chapter level, not necessarily not even at a regional level, but as a chapter level, where I've got a chapter in Region 2 talking directly with the chapter in Region 5 about, hey, this is the best practice. This is something I've done. This is something that has worked for our chapter. And I found that if you get that collaboration at that level, where people are actually talking, a lot of ideas start to flow. Like I said, I've done this at a regional level, Region 5, where I've had chapters in the same state talk to each other, and they had no idea the issues each other was facing. And one chapter was able to help and say, hey, I've been through this problem, this issue. I can help out this other chapter. And so I think we're probably at a good state now where, like I say, we're doing this thing virtually right now. We're all talking to each other across all the regions. Why can't we do that at chapter level? Why can't we have more of those where we're interacting with each other, seeing each other's face to face, and sharing those ideas in real time?
All right, good. Take three more. We have these three more questions, and I'm gonna cut it there. So I have a question from Camila. Give us an idea of your communications plan amid this COVID-19 virus or pandemic, where physical meetings and events. You kind of just talked about this a little bit, but we know that moving forward, physical meetings and events will probably be far less. So how will that make us successful, or how will your plan make us successful?
An idea of the communications plan. I think our plan will have to remain as flexible as possible. We need to continue to hit every platform available every time we do one of these events. Like I said, I'm seeing messages fly around from people on the Facebook Messenger, on Instagram, here on the chat, be able to make sure that all our platforms are up and running and working. Because, you know, we're going through this pandemic right now, but honestly, in my honest opinion, I think a lot of the things we're doing now, we should not stop once this pandemic ends. I mean, we still have, I still value the conventions and being face to face, but that's not always we can get the majority of people. I mean, it's great and all, but I think these practices that we're doing now, we definitely need to continue up and continue on as if we're still in a pandemic, where we still can not let our physical limitations prevent us from doing anything that we're doing. So like I said, I want to stay flexible, stay adaptive, and I do want to get ahead of some things a little bit. I want to get us in a position where we're actually looking ahead and seeing, okay, we know certain things hit at certain times. How can we leverage as many platforms? How can we, maybe we can send out some initial survey saying, hey, we're doing this event, it's going to be in the summertime, I know it's going to be hot or whatever. What are some good ways that you guys would feel that we can communicate? So if we know some of these things are coming up ahead, we can plan for them a lot better and make more options available earlier. So my mindset is plan. I'm going to take this plan as a good trial run, but I want to keep some of these practices going.
Right. Okay. There have been significant delays in getting the new NSBE.org website launched. So there have also been recent movements to have NSBE Magazine, Career Engineer in digital form. As you think about the brand of professionals, what are 3 external channels that you will partner with to drive the professional brand forward?
Let's see, 3 external channels. I can take that in a number of ways. I think we need to look into our collaborative platforms. I know we've done the workspace chat for a while. I know Microsoft has Microsoft Teams. I know there are some other collaboration platforms that would allow us even, beyond and quicker than, the Instagrams and the social media that we have, to allow us to collaborate more in real time. Recent movements to NSBE Magazine, Career Engineering digital form. We have the Microsoft, I can't remember what Takia uses, the program she uses, but that's a pretty interactive, for the newsletters. That's a pretty interactive platform that I see as a great step, and I want to take it further. Other external platforms and channels. The other platform I can think of that's an external partner is cloud storage, either with our Google Drive currently, with Box, with Dropbox, something that we can have that it can be accessible no matter where you are. Something that you don't have to have a physical server or desktop on you. You can access it from wherever on the go. So I definitely want to look into those platforms. I do also want to canvas our current comm zone just to see what platforms have been looked at, what hasn't been, and try to use that as a springboard into getting into some other external channels. So.
All right, and there's a couple of questions around technology. Let me ask Eric's question first. Can you share with us how you will improve the marketing and communications infrastructure of the NSBE professionals? And he also asked about what tools and resources should we leverage to do outreach to our constituents that currently do not use some of the platforms and infrastructure that we currently have?
Okay, that's a good question, Eric. The thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about improving our marketing and communications infrastructure is we got to simplify it. We got to take it back to basics and simplify it. I've said this for a while. I think we should have a dedicated single channel where information is flowing out that as it's coming down from, or it's coming out from our PEB, our regional counterparts know it and know the schedule, and they're able to flow it out in, roughly around the same time frame. And we're all sending a consistent message, at a time. Like I said, we do a lot of things around NSBE. There's a lot of programs, a lot of initiatives, a lot of activity moving on. And sometimes, you can send out 8 or 9 different communications and the overall message gets lost because, you're trying to bounce from thing to thing. I think we need to start simplifying either both our chain and our themes going forward. So, maybe this month is specifically focused on just promoting this, or we're promoting these 2 things or these 3 things. And it's a very focused effort to promote specific activities. Now, second question. Oh, I was going to ask you
So
tools and resources that we should
let me say this, since the next couple of questions are related. This talks about what tools and resources we can leverage. There's another question about what technologies do we feel we should continue to use or introduce, and would you consider using Slack? And so I think those are all related in terms of resources.
Okay, let me see how I can answer all of these. Okay, what tools that we don't use? Let me answer the one that we do use and continue to use. I think we started to use the YouTube channel. I think that has been a great resource to start with, especially because it's more than just a PowerPoint slide that somebody's having to read, or you're just hearing a voice. It's a face to a voice. It's a picture. It's something you can look at and feel like you're interacting with, even though it's a pre-recorded message. I think we need to continue to use those platforms to put a face with the NSBE brand. Is what I'm getting at with that. So some tools that we maybe haven't used, and somebody asked that, would you consider using Slack? I think that would be a great tool. I know we do use the Facebook workspace platform that's similar to Slack. It has its pros and cons as well. I think the direction now is using that workspace chat. I think it covers most of the areas. I think we need to expand it and actually promote it a little better, so we're getting not just our boards and our chairs on it, but getting our chapters and our regular everyday members a part of that platform. Let's see, any other platforms or things we haven't used yet? I don't know necessarily what we haven't used yet that I would use. I will say that I am dedicated to researching that and looking at. I want to see what our current full tool suite is. I do know we have licenses to things, and some things other people are strong points and not, but I do want to look at that and see what we're using, and I will update a list or update you guys on other platforms as they come available.
All right, great. So we're about out of time for this this Q&A portion, but there are still 2 questions on the screen. I wanted to, if you can, incorporate those into your closing statement, perhaps then we can just wrap this up all in one shot. So one is, how can you help NSBE Junior chapters have more visibility? And the other is, how can you incorporate and advocate for accessibility standards in your work as Common Zone lead? Which I think is a pretty important question. Accessibility is something that we don't typically pay that much attention to.
Okay. Okay, let's say I'm gonna wrap it up. Well, once again, my name is Townsend Brown, running for your PUB secretary. Some things for the NSBE Junior chapters, said web pages and things like that. At this point, I know from talking with various folks that I won't have a direct input of coding in the website. What I will do, and I will promise you, is I'm going to drive the person who is in charge of that to get this website thing going. I've been very passionate about it. I have a web design background. There's plenty of us out there who could have put together something. So I'm promising you that I will stay on top of the folks, the company, whatever that's in charge of putting that together. Because I definitely want to see that happen this year. As far as incorporating and advocating for accessibility standards in work, I will say that we are looking to bring on maybe a technology chair. I'm looking to bring the comm zone at least to 3 people. And so with 3 people out there, I want to specifically task somebody who's also looking at the website to be mindful of those accessibility standards, of those avenues. I want to have a presence on whatever calls and committees that are making these decisions that, hey, we need to drive this in there because we need to be able to cater to all of our membership. And all of our membership is one type of way. We need to be able to reach everybody in the space that they're currently in. So with that being said, once again, thank you very much for your time, and I will turn it back over to Reggie.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Townsend Brown, candidate for secretary. Then we're going to move on to the candidates for treasurer-elect. So professional executive board treasurer-elect candidates. And we will begin with the opening statement by Alexa Kottman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alexa Kottman, running for PEB Treasurer-elect, representing Region 3 Ready. I know some of you probably are wondering why I have applied for this position. My passion and commitment to NSBE professionals is what's driving me to see us flourish fiscally and be fiscally accountable. And then also bring into my goal of strengthening the bridge between our regional finance zone and our national finance zone. So being able to be consistent with our communication and collaboration together. So I look forward to your support and also your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. So before we get to the questions, and you all can start posting your questions, I'll let our next candidate, Mr. Joseph Borga, introduce himself.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Borga, and I'm running for PEB Treasurer-elect position. I'm originally from Ethiopia, but currently residing in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Region 4. I joined NSBE about 10 years ago in college, where I was the chapter treasurer and then chapter president at Jackson State University. After grad school, I moved to Minneapolis and joined the Twin Cities professional chapter and became the professional chapter treasurer for 2 years. I then progressed to the regional level and had the pleasure of serving as the Region 4 treasurer for the past 2 years. I said all this to say I'm exactly what this organization invests in, a collegiate member turned into a professional and now in a leadership position. My platform as treasurer-elect is to increase the financial transparency and literacy within NSBE. I plan on working closely with the current treasurer towards streamlining the financial process within NSBE so that we're more efficient and incoming treasurers can easily learn and adapt the process. I also plan on encouraging open communication and collaboration with collegiate counterparts, but also regional and local chapter treasurers. Especially with regional treasurers, I believe it's essential to start this conversation early and gain the trust and build the rapport. My vision aligns with the current treasurer, and I plan to build upon his initiatives, but also implement some of the initiatives implemented within Region 4 nationally. I look forward to getting your support, and if selected, I look forward to serving y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. And while we have you here, we're going to go ahead and let you answer the question first. So the first question is, can each of you speak to your working relationship with the upcoming PEB treasurer?
Yeah, so I've worked very closely with Alex. He was the Region 4 chair when I was the treasurer. So within the last 5 years of being in the NSBE finance zone, the past 3 years, I've worked very closely with Alex. So I have good experience working with Alex.
All right. Thank you. Alexa?
I have worked with Alex Isaac this year as the role of being Region 3 Professionals Treasurer, and with him being our Treasurer-elect. I enjoy our conversations, and there have been times where we just are very passionate, and we just are very committed to mission and the goals from a fiscal standpoint. So I always appreciate my conversations that I have with Alex.
Okay, while you're here, we'll move on to the next question. What will you do to ensure that the regional PEB spending and fundraising is strategic and has membership impact. For example, removing dependency from the REBs.
Remove dependency from the REBs.
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but
Yeah, I need a little bit of clarification because I would want to see that the regions would be able to come to us for that guidance. One of the things that I had a conversation with was creating a FAQ for some of the new chapters within the region to help them when it comes to their EIN and just what they would need from a new chapter standpoint, the Gen survey, just the basic questions for your new chapter, and pass that down to our region so that the communication can be consistent and be transparent.
okay. Joseph?
So answering this question, most likely be working more closely with the programs zone, making sure there are different programs available for the chapters, and so that the members can benefit from those programs directly.
Okay. All right, the next question is, specifically, how can we continue to improve the infrastructure as well as the quality and speed of organization-wide financial approvals and decisions? So for example, budgets, IOEs, intensive expenditures, travel, partner acquisitions, and those types of things.
Oh, is that me? Okay.
Yes.
How can you improve? Yes. So this is one of the things I want to work very closely with Alex to begin with, making sure we have clear documentations and processes in place so that we're more agile and effective with our budgets and also the different travels in place. Yeah, I guess.
All right. Alexa?
So I would like to, in this position, since this is a 2-year position, I would like to understand our current infrastructure. We do understand that there are some gaps and rooms for improvement, but just make sure that from a policy standpoint that I'm made well aware and informed before that we make those improvements, and try to have that conversation with our SIG directors and also with our regional chairs and regional finance zones to make sure that it's consistent, as well as with the agility and efficiency.
Right. Thank you. The next question for you, Alexa, is what part of the experience or what part of your experiences make you qualify for this position?
Well, in my current role as a business intelligence data analyst, I working for financial services. I appreciate how data works. The numbers do not lie. So that has actually helped in my position currently as Region 3 Treasurer. I was able to build actionable dashboards to present to my chair when it came to our membership numbers and how that can affect our finances and how that can tread down to our programming from a strategic standpoint. So I feel with all of that, it encompasses with this role to understand our policies, our operations, our infrastructure, and then bringing that all together to balance it out.
All right, Joseph?
One thing, one of the reasons I chose this position is mainly because of my NSBE experience, starting with collegiate and now being in the professionals. I've been in the finance zone for a while. And so I know how the budget works within the collegiate perspective and also the professional's perspective. So kind of have an understanding of both sides. And so that's why I believe I am a good fit for this position.
All right, thank you. Next question will be to you, Alexa. And the question is, with annual convention being rescheduled, it's very likely that the attendance will be much lower than expected, especially in the current environment. With the With the convention being a significant source of revenue for the society, how will you navigate this potential loss in revenue?
Well, that's very honest and probably correct, is that we do realize that a significant source of revenue does come from convention. And again, as treasurer-elect, it's more so just understanding how we need to be adaptable to these changes and understanding where we will probably have to be a little bit more lean in our programming, and see how we can maneuver with the vision that Julius and Camila provide and have provided. So we're just going to look at everything top down, bottom up, and then try to see and prioritize as much as possible so that we can still give our members the best return on their investment, and that they feel that they're getting the most that they can from us as the professionals representing them on this board.
All right, Yosef?
I would say making sure we have good amount of programming available, so that despite thinking that we might not have good attendance, if we have good materials available, I'm a strong believer that people will come. It's all dependent on how much programs we have and how much they'll benefit from those programs available.
All right, thank you. We have a question from Chair. With the need to really pay attention to budgets due to this pandemic, what concerns are you anticipating? And what ideas or creative activities can you think of to increase revenue and or better balance existing budgets? That's to you, Yosef.
Okay. Yeah. So with in the midst of this COVID-19, a lot of things are changing with our finances. We need to be more aware of our spending, making sure we're making the smart decisions towards finances. Some of the things I want to implement is what we implemented on the Region 4 level is the virtual chapter leaders training, which will greatly benefit the REB board and also the chapter leaders if implemented at a national level. That's one thing implemented will really help offset the downside of this troubling times. Besides that also, and then by having these documentations, it will cut down a lot of travels that was being done previously, which in turn will have us more money available for different programs that we can implement, which can eventually benefit the membership.
It's time. Thank you. Alexa?
So my concerns are basically just looking at the numbers and what the numbers are going to tell us with the budget once we realize with convention, before convention and after convention. The other thing is trying to make sure we have that relationship still with a lot of our partners and our board of corporate affiliates, also known as our BCAs. I would like, as I stated before, I know a lot of times before we would have our National Leadership Conference, I would like to see if we can have that virtually. Also, as treasurer-elect, since I'm the conduit with our regions, I would like to have one-on-one calls with our chair-elect, and treasurer so that they can understand the budgets, so that when they receive their monthly financials, it makes more sense. In order to create that fiscal accountability and transparency, I think education and just being able to have that conversation, because NSBE budgets and finances, it's complicated at times. So we just need to be able to be patient with each other and work in support with each other.
Great. So while you're here, let's move to the next question.
Okay.
Have you prepared for this? How have you prepared for this role outside of your NSBE leadership involvement?
So I'm also a member of the National Black MBA Association. So being able to network and have the conversation about marketing and budgets and financials. That has helped a lot being treasurer. And I feel that it'll help me even more in this role because I have to look at the bigger picture. Working locally within my chapter professionally with NSBE is definitely a step from a local, regional, and national standpoint. Also, I'm a member of the National Urban League Young Professionals. So just being able to see how other professional organizations operate and have those discussions and see how we can leverage within NSBE as well so that we can flourish financially.
Joseph?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Beside my vast NSBE experience, I'm involved in different organizations like NSBE. One I can mention is IEEE. But beside that, I'm a systems engineer at work, and we mainly focus on streamlining our processes, continuous improvement of the different work we implement. And so being the treasurer, being in that position will help me implement better processes and then being able to continuously improve those processes as well.
All right, thank you. So just to let everybody know how we are on time, about halfway through this Q&A session for this particular candidate. So let's move on to the next question. And that will be for you, Joseph.
Okay.
What are your plans to address reimbursement lags within the regions?
Yes, that would mainly involve working very closely with WSQ and making sure we have all the documentation in place before we even submit the reimbursement process. But also really that process can be improved, and that's one of the things I really want to work with Alex and implementing a better way on how chapters and members can, or board members can get their money back faster.
Okay, thank you. Alexa?
So with our reimbursement lags, it is definitely having the conversation with our accounting team, with Stanton and his team, and also with the accounts payable, just to see how Aptify is communicating with the members once the treasurer enters in that information for the reimbursement. Also making sure that our board members understand how the process works as well. I think that I try to communicate well with my board members on the Region 3 board, but I know that at times just making sure that there's an understanding of how that process works once I receive the receipts in PDF format. I do wonder why it cannot be in another format. So I would like to have the understanding of the infrastructure in the back end with Aptify so that we can better try to be a little bit more efficient in how it's received and how it's delivered for our regions.
All right. Continuing on, what type of programs will you implement to educate the members of the zone, the finance zone?
So as I stated before, I definitely want to start with the FAQ, the frequently asked questions, try to with our top 10 from a finance zone perspective. I noticed that with our chairs, our regional chairs and our regional treasurers, the main thing is just understanding their budgets. So I would like within my 30, 60, 90 to, if I'm voted in, to have those one-on-one conversations so that they can understand their budgets and their monthly financials so that it can create more transparency and accountability.
Okay, Joseph?
So besides really having this one-on-one meetings between regional treasurers and chair-elect, I really want to open up this meetings with the whole board so everybody's aware of the budget and making their decision based on the budget instead of the treasurer trying to explain to the whole board. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page instead of passing it on to the treasurer only.
Okay, the next question is also from Sandra Favors. How will you ensure transparency of funding opportunities and spending?
So yeah, this is one thing that we should work towards working with different funding opportunities. I think there should be a platform of how we can share this data with all our chapters available, so that not just one region is benefiting from that funding opportunity, but nationally, everybody's able to apply for that funding and be able to benefit from it. And also, I want to make sure that everybody's aware of the budget, so that as a nonprofit organization, anybody's welcome to know about our spending and income as well.
Okay, thank you. Now, Alexa?
So to ensure transparency of funding opportunities. So this year within Region 3, we did implement during our zone meetings, our PowerPoint deck to provide to our local chapters to help them understand and help them build that bridge with their small, mid, and large companies within their area. Also, I try to keep it real collaborative within our chapters. So for instance, the Atlanta chapter had a partnership packet, and so I was willing to share with our Music City chapter, also known as Nashville chapter, so that just to get an idea. A lot of times we have to understand that for some of our smaller chapters, it might be a little bit more difficult for them to find funding compared to the larger ones. So if it's a small company and we get $100, that $100 will help one of our NSBE Junior children to be able to attend a program, an event, or a competition. So every bit helps. So it's just making sure that we provide that information to our regions and our chapters, and that they understand that they can definitely come to us for that.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. As treasurer, what is your number one job, and what does it entail? And what are the documents that will guide all the decisions that you make? The 2 documents that will guide the decisions.
So as not as treasurer-elect, but as treasurer. Number one job is probably balance, making sure that there's balance, looking at things from our fundraising, our operations, our infrastructure. Also making sure that I am mentoring and being there for the treasurer-elect that comes behind me. 2 documents that will guide the decisions I make. Definitely the budget, and probably my main thing is looking at the budgets and then understanding the financials as they come in. That's just what I would think that I would need as much as possible.
Okay, Yosef, same question. As treasurer, what's your number one job? What does it entail? And what are the 2 documents that you would use to guide your decisions?
As a treasurer, I think the number one job would be making sure we have a stable organization, financially stable organization. And the 2 documents that will guide this decision, in my opinion, would be having the budget ready, and also the financial policy that NSBE has in place.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have quite a few questions left on the board. I'm going to close the questions at this point so that we don't accept any more. And I'm going to try to get through all of them, but for sake of time, we may not get through all of them. So I'm going to ask the next question to Yosef, and it's, what are some of the improvements in the PEB budget in the last 2 years that have benefited the NSBE professionals?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
What are some of the improvements in the PEB budget in the last 2 years that have benefited the NSBE professionals?
I would probably, so from the budget perspective, having more funding available is one of the benefit. And also the fact that PDC is able to make more money as we go, having more members attend this event is one of the benefits that I see from my perspective.
Alexa, what are
So
some of the improvements in the PB budget? You got it.
thank you, Reggie. So looking at the overall financials, I believe that the improvements in the PEB budget the last 2 years was the increase in funding with our BCA's, Board of Corporate Affiliates, but also our affiliate and our preferred professional partners. And that helped garner for revenue to be generated for PDC last year in San Diego. I also believe that the increase in membership also helped in our budget and those solicitations for jobs. So.
All right. The next question is, how would you improve funding and financial management for our special interest groups?
The SIGs. So definitely being within the treasurer-elect position, having the collaboration and communication with the SIGs is definitely, again, part of my 30, 60, 90 plan, if elected. So just trying to understand the needs and having that conversation with the TechX chair to understand the priorities and needs of the SIG directors, because we have grown in the number of SIGs that we have, which is great because that helps us with the membership engagement. So it's just making sure that I have those conversations first, prioritize, and then that way I can have a conversation with our finance chair to see if we can collaborate with the funding for our SIGs.
All right. Thank you. Joseph?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
How would you improve funding and financial management for special interest groups?
It would mainly be working very closely with the finance chair and in creating the CSB so that we can easily find sponsors to sponsor the different SIGs, and also creating different programs that companies are willing to sponsor, and that way we can get more revenue for the different SIGs in NSBE.
Okay, let's move on to another question, and that is, one of the proposals on the ballot is to raise professional membership dues. What impact do you see that having on NSBE's finances?
Is that towards me? Oh, yep. So that would definitely benefit the NSBE as an organization as it increases the revenue for NSBE. But also we just want to be mindful of making sure with this increase, we have different programs available to justify this change. And that so that our members stay engaged and are still willing to pay the increased price.
Okay. Alexa?
Yes. So I do believe that having the increase in the dues will definitely have a positive impact. We do understand that with that increase, that comes with more responsibility. So as a board, we would definitely need to look at how we are going to use those funds and allocate those funds to increase that membership engagement. Hopefully, when Victoria was talking about certifications, FE, PE exams, just trying to see how we can use that money allocated and benefit the membership when it comes to content at PDC, those things. Because when you put in more, you want a bigger return on your investment. And so we definitely will not take that lightly, because I don't want to take that lightly when it comes to dealing with and encountering your funds, because we definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. So Yosef, the next question is going to be back to you, Alexa, and that's, how do you envision working with these special interest groups to assist them in understanding budget parameters so they can optimize the funding of programs?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to engaging and understanding more about the SIGs and what they're trying to accomplish. I enjoyed the webinars from the IP SIG, public policy. I just want to make sure that I understand their need when it comes to their members within those SIGs, and how that engagement and the funding that they're looking for, and just making sure that the budget that we have for them makes sense, and it is fulfilling the need that they're looking for.
All right. Same question to you, Yosef.
I quickly mentioned about this earlier as well. By having a virtual training and documentation available for this budgeting and different revenues and financial policy will definitely help the SIGs understand what are the financial procedures, and also how to communicate with different BCA companies, and how to get more revenue for the SIGs.
Okay. The next question to you is, what is your perspective on NSBE finance now that COVID-19 is on the rise?
Yes. So this is an unknown territory that we're in right now. So my goal is really we need to be more mindful of our spending, and also making sure we're making smart decisions in our finances, as we don't know what the next norm would be, how long we'll be in the situation. So we have to make sure we're agile enough and adaptable to the new situations we're in, and making sure we're making the best financial decisions for our organization.
Okay.
So, sorry, Reggie. My perspective on the NSBE finances is that there will be a lot of known knowns and a lot of unknowns. So we know that we are in this new normal. The unknown is just how we're going to be able to maneuver and operate. So we don't know with everything that's going on with these changes. So my perspective is just trying to make sure that we're going to try our best to be at a level playing field and work as positively as we can to continue that membership engagement.
All right, thank you. We are pretty much at the end of time here, so I'm going to ask just two more questions and apologize to those who were not able to get your questions answered. But for the sake of time, I'm going to try and get these two more questions answered, and hopefully that will give you an idea of what the candidates are bringing to the table. So the next question is, as incoming treasurer, you'll need to know the budget inside and out. And what are the current revenue and expense drivers? And where do you see opportunity to improve the revenue and manage the expenses? This one is to you, Alexa.
Okay. So I will admit that travel, I believe, is a really expensive driver. In regards to revenue, it would be with convention being moved, it usually is convention where we get a lot of our revenue, but also our funding from our partners. So managing those expenses, we're definitely going to have to manage the travel. We are currently managing it now through our Zoom, and we will continue to use those innovative ideas that Townsend brought in and that are currently being used with our ComZone to try to level those expenses, and then build the revenue with creating preferred professional partners, which just want to have that one-to-one relationship more so with our professionals and grow that relationship. So I think that can help with our revenue. And if the increase in dues get passed, that would not hurt either.
Yeah. All right. That's time. Thank you. And Yosef?
Our main revenue is really from our BCA sponsors, partners, and also the NSBE conventions. But one thing I want to work towards is really not depending on those two sources of income. I want us to be able to diversify our income. We're looking at different grants that are available that applies to us. And also one of the things I want to work towards is really reducing this travel and finding also different ways, like we said, having this virtual training will help with this, reducing the travel, and then also really finding non-BCA companies to be more involved with NSBE as well.
Okay, let's move on to this last question for this segment. And it will be, how will you improve the chapter's access to funding for programs? Currently, there's no awareness of how much funding the chapters can request from a national level. So how will you improve this access to funding?
For me, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, so by having, I want to work closely with the finance chair and making sure once we have this CSP in place, it doesn't not only impact the regional board or the national board. I want to make sure that it benefits directly the members and also and then also the regional level. One example, one thing we did at Region 4 is whenever we get a sponsor, we implement a scholarship. One scholarship is like professional development scholarship that we implemented. Whenever we get a sponsor, we give out a professional development scholarship for our members so that they can go back and get a certificate or go back and do grad school. So that's one way we can impact the chapter members.
All right, thank you. A question to you, Alexa. How will you improve chapters' access to funding?
So we have our National Programs Fund. And so being able to, I would like to work hand in hand with our programs chair so that there's better understanding for our chapters when it comes to that funding. It is basically at times a little confusing. So it would just be added to that wonderful FAQ that I mentioned and provided to the regional treasurers to go down to our local chapters. But it would start first with me having the conversation with our programs chair to determine what is available for our National Programs Fund, and then trying to allocate out between our 6 regions and making sure that it's being equitable.
All right, good. Well, thank you both of the candidates. And now we will move on to your closing statements. So Yosef, you have the floor for your 30-second spiel.
All right, thank you. I want to start off by saying thank you everyone for attending this call on a Sunday afternoon. I just want to say that I have vast experience in the finance zone. I've been part of NSBE for the past 10 years as collegiate and then professional member. And now I'm trying to be one of the leaders on the organization and serving our members. I have like I said, I have 5 years of experience within NSBE finance zone, which gives me the holistic understanding of the NSBE budget. And also 3 out of those 5 years, I've worked very closely with the incoming national professional treasurer. So as my platform is really, as a treasurer-elect, is to increase the financial transparency and literacy within NSBE. together as a professional executive board, I just want to assure everyone that we'll work together to ensure we hold our ground and come out stronger during this troubling times. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to working and serving y'all.
All right, thank you. Now,
All right, thank you.
Alexa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Reggie. So I just want to reiterate that I want to strengthen the bridge of the communication and the collaboration between our regional finance zones and our national finance zone as treasurer-elect. This is a 2-year position, so this is a big position, especially in these times. There are, again, a lot of unknowns, but I feel that we as NSBE, we're one, we are stronger together. And so not only do I want your vote, I want your support. I can't do this alone. So when I say I want your support, I love the questions, I love the ideas. I want you to hold me accountable. I want you to understand that I will try my best to be as efficient as possible, as adaptable as possible, and as reliable as I can be to serve you. This is a servant leadership role. It is definitely something that I hold dear to my heart. I am passionate about seeing us flourish and shine bright like a diamond from a fiscal standpoint. So again, I look forward to your vote. And remember, you got next with Lex. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you to both of the candidates for treasurer-elect. And remember that voting will begin this afternoon. And with that, we will move on to our candidate for chair-elect, Dr. Ronisha Worthy. Take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dr. Ronisha Worthy. And before I continue with the opening statement, I just want to acknowledge the leadership of our chair, Julius Hudson, this past year, as well as our chair-elect, Camilo Majid, as well as our entire professional executive board. I had the opportunity to serve with them throughout this year, and it was a wonderful leadership experience for me. I met so many new people, and whether they all know it or not, I picked up something positive from every single person that I'm able to kind of take with me and carry with me, not just on my NSBE journey, but outside of my NSBE journey. So I just wanted to make sure that I say that. And then I also want to recognize my Region 3 Executive Board. I know that they're on the call, and I just want to say thank you so very much for supporting me, not necessarily during this election campaign, but supporting me as your regional chair. They have been absolutely amazing. And I just really want to thank them at this time. So with that said, I just want to talk a little bit about how I got here. And about 3 years ago, almost to the day, I walked in the Region 3 professionals meeting intent on trying to re-engage and give back to an organization that gave me my first professional opportunity some odd years ago when I was a collegiate. I was blessed that the chair at the time, Ms. Sandra Favors, saw something in me, and she gave me my first professionals leadership opportunity as CI chair. After that, you know, it kind of started as a spark and then turned into a flame, and that has brought me to this point, to this moment today, where I would like to utilize all of the experiences that I've gained from it as a NSBE collegiate already to this point. So on my personal and professional journey, I have collected so many strategies and methods that I believe will help take the NSBE professionals to the next level. Whether it's in my experience working with current and future engineers as a professor, I understand that in order to garner that commitment, that support, that ability to go from a collegiate to a professional, you must help them develop. And after you help them develop, you have to celebrate their successes. And when they're ready, you have to elevate them. And in addition to that, as a leader in my department, I've learned that working cross-functionally requires we develop strong relationships. And I believe we can do that with our other NSBE stakeholder groups that will move us as an organization into a level of prominence we haven't seen before. And
right.
finally,
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we want to stay within our time frame here. and you'll get an opportunity to continue with your platform as you answer some of the questions that are coming through. So we'll start with the first question, and please keep the questions coming. We'll try to get them all answered. Again, we have about 15 minutes for this Q&A period. So there have been discussions regarding moving the national convention or the annual convention to the fall. And can you share your feelings on this subject?
Absolutely. So initially, when I heard this particular suggestion, it was back during our a strategic planning. And the reason why the thought was to move it to the fall was so that we can cater more to our companies, because that was starting at the beginning of their recruitment season. And so for the most part, I believe that first, before we even start to really determine whether or not this is good or bad for the organization, I'm a firm believer in what our members think. And so we should definitely utilize some of the strategies that we've done currently as we're in this COVID-19 situation. Reach out to the membership and ask them, what do they think? Personally, for me, I don't necessarily like the idea of convention being in August, because that's at the beginning of the school year. And I know, for example, students, my students, they're starting school classes that first week. So I'm not in agreement with that. But if potentially the students might think that maybe during the fall regional conferences times, that might be a successful point where they could attend annual convention, and then moving the FRCs to the spring. So definitely reach out to membership first. While I'm a member, I'm just one member. We need to get the opinions of other members.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, or request is, please share a professional failure that you've experienced and talk to us about what you learned from it.
All right, so professional failure that I experienced, let me figure out which one I want to tell you about, because I have had so many. And one in particular that comes to mind, and I hate that it's not a professional, but it's more of a leadership failure. So in my senior year in college, I was lucky enough to be elected as the president of my sorority chapter. And, you know, at first it was really great. I was working great with my sorors. We were doing a lot of excellent things. And then, like, out of the blue, a situation came up where we could have potentially gotten kicked off the yard. And so I had to manage our organization during that crisis. And so one of the things that happened is that I completely detached from my sorority sisters, because I was so engaged in trying to deal with all of the, you know, the leadership from even the president of the organization in DC all the way to our administration at the university. And so that experience taught me so much, because at the end of the day, I lost the support of my fellow sorors. And I think that I can pull that experience into this one right now. And that lesson is to continue to stay engaged with membership regardless of the situation that's going on. Make sure you keep one ear open to what your members are saying, what your sorority sisters are saying at that particular time, and make sure that you're getting their opinion, which kind of, you know, led to the answer to the previous question. So that's what I learned.
Thank you for sharing. What previous PEB chairs do you look up to and why?
So one PEB chair that I look up to, and I have never personally met this particular PEB chair. I've attended his one of his webinars that our Region 3 hosted, but it's male. And the reason why I looked up to male was because he didn't have to even have a presence in front of me for every single person to talk about how great of a chair he was how the relationship that he had with Cecina, how, you know, he moved this organization leaps and bounds. And so more than what you can show me as a person, you know, that's great, but the idea that other people are going in on your behalf to say how much of a good leader you are. And so I actually look forward to reaching out to him if I'm given this opportunity to mentor me through this process, so that I can kind of adopt some of the strategies that he utilized.
Great, thank you. So chapters are an excellent mechanism for collegiate chapter engagement, as evidenced by their success of the model. Will you consider revision to the chapter-based model for professionals? And what about those who do not have access to a chapter, for instance, members at large and that type of thing?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. So as far as the current chapter-based model, I think that we have to first, before even having a discussion about whether or not we should, you know, change that model, we need to look to make sure that that model is operating currently right now like it's supposed to operate. And so making sure that from a top-down standpoint, the regional board is giving the support to the chapters that they need. The chapters understand what their role is as chapters, and also making sure that the national level leadership is not necessarily kind of drawing a line of demarcation and never really coordinating and collaborating with those chapters. So first, before we even talk about redoing anything as far as our model is concerned, we need to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do for now. And about the members at large, I understand why some people choose to be members at large, but that's not the goal for our organization. We need to get those members at large connected to a chapter. And if there's not a chapter in their area, we need to have conversations about how they can begin a chapter and how to get members to coalesce around them to support them as a chapter. So that's my perspective on that.
All right, great, thank you. One of the proposals on the ballot is to give PEB chair a vote on the NEB or at NEB meetings. If passed, how do you see that impacting the organization from the professional's perspective?
That's a really good question, Dr. Jordan. And so first things first, beyond just the vote, I think that we have to make sure that the PEB chair and the NEB chair have a wonderful relationship. But also, it's important for us to understand the power of your vote as a PEB chair, and recognizing that we are a collegiate run organization. And as a PEB chair, you're not just serving as a member of the board, you're also serving as a mentor to the board. And I'm talking about the NEB board. And so they're going to be looking to you to see what you do. And so I believe that we have a wonderful opportunity, mentorship as well as organizational influence to have that vote. And when we exercise that vote, making sure that we have the data, we have just the reasoning behind why we vote, and share that with the NEB members so that we can begin to mentor them and show them how leadership is supposed to operate, and that we should make decisions based on specific reasons. And so I think that that's going to help us move the professionals' agenda, but also the agenda of the organization a lot further.
Okay, great. How do you, to your immediate knowledge of the chair-elect position, what do you see as your potential challenge? What do you think that challenge may be, and how do you plan on attacking it? And also, how do you plan on aligning with Madam Chair-elect?
That's a good question. And so my immediate challenge is going to be, so if some of you would know, the main objective of the chair-elect position is to manage our executive, our PEB, our executive board, so that the chair can handle some of these outward-facing roles when it comes to the NEB and just membership, BCA partners, and all of that in general. And so in coming to a board in this situation with COVID-19, there's going to be an initial hump that we have to get over, because most of the board members are thinking in their heads that, okay, we can't do what we've done in the past. I want to do this stuff, but I can't. And so getting them, motivating them to think outside of the box, literally doing some things that we've never done before is going to be that initial hump. And so in order to align with Madam Chair Majid, it's going to center around our communication and building our relationship. So constantly staying in communication with her and making sure that I dial back some of these things that I'm talking to you about as far as my platform is concerned, and focusing on some of the strategies that she wants to implement, and then communicating that with our board. And so, yes, I want to do all of these great things, but at the end of the day, she is our chair, and making sure that I'm following her lead on a lot of these things.
All right, thank you. So we have currently about 10 questions left on the board. I'm going to try to get through all of them as quickly as possible. I just want to let everybody know that I'm now cutting the questions list at this point. So if your question has not been posted yet, it will not be, you will not get an opportunity to ask that question. And I know what the last one is, so don't try to sneak it in there. But what improvements would you like to see from our special interest group program?
Oh, I've been having this conversation with some of the past and current chair. And one of the improvements that I would like for us to see is to get some meaningful memorandums of understanding with some high impacting organizations. The High SIG is doing a great job of this. Aerospace SIG is doing a great job of this. I think that, for example, with our entrepreneurship SIG, a great MOU would be to partner with the minority business development agencies, and so that members who are a part of that entrepreneurship SIG, they can kind of get ahead of the pack as far as getting and gaining opportunities through that particular agency. And taking that model and kind of letting it roll down to other and across to other SIGs as well. And so the very first thing would be to identify those particular agencies, organizations that would give our members that prominence and those benefits that they need, and connecting with those through memorandums of understanding. So that's the first thing that I see that I could actually do.
Thank you. When asked about why other Black professionals did not stay in NSBE after graduating college, the response was that there are better alternative groups to participate in. How do you plan on changing that perspective and getting former members to join as professional members?
So there's a couple of things. Let me level set here, because I am not one to bash any other organization. I think that they're all needed. And I think that we have to get our members to understand that NSBE offers different things than some of these other professional organizations. We are not an ASCE, we are not an ASME, we are not IEEE, and nor should we be. There is a specific demographic, there's a specific niche that we must maintain and operate in as NSBE, and we don't need to kind of fan out. And so that's specifically supporting our Black engineers. And so communicating that to members that, hey, you can go to IEEE, you can go to ASCE, but there is no organization that will support you as a Black engineer like NSBE. And so having the opportunity to liaise with, upper level management, putting you in front of those C-suite leaders, like NSBE does that. I can't go to ASCE and expect for me to be in front of a C-suite person, to support me and what I'm doing as an environmental and civil engineer. But NSBE can provide that opportunity to you. So communicating that and making that proposition, that value proposition we hear so many times, to them to get them on board. And actually, Kenny, it's going to come from word of mouth. So you as a member communicating that.
All right, let's move to the next question. It says, what ways do you see us making sure, since we're talking about engagement, what ways do you see us making sure our professional members engage in NSBE activities that are not connected to our national or regional conferences and events?
Great question. Great question. So there's a couple of things. I'll just since we have so many questions, I'll start with just one. We as leadership have to respond to our members. A lot of times we throw up flyers and say, "Hey, do this, do that," and we're getting the word out, but we're not really responding back to them and checking in on them. I think that that's one of the things that we don't do enough of, is communicating back to our members. Hey, I invited you to this chapter event. Hey, I'm just checking in. You missed it. Here's some resources that you missed. Is there anything that you would like to see after the fact? So making sure that we keep the line of communication open and reaching out. That's the true meaning of engagement that we can do. So that's how I see us changing how we operate and how we do businesses.
Great, thank you. So with the potential for membership dues to double for professionals, what is your pitch for members who struggle to gain a benefit from the current dues?
So this is on it. Obviously, I'm not. I did public involvement for a very long time with the civil engineering firm, and oftentimes we rush to this idea. Oh, let me hurry up and get a whole bunch of other stuff that we can say. This is what your extra money is going to. And so I think that to make the case initially, you have to really level set for people, and you have to tell them, hey, look. Since 1988, our dues have been $50. And so level set with them of that fact first. And then you have to tell them what we currently offer. Many people don't know that you can go out there and get a Ford discount with your car, or get a deal for Geico through your NSBE membership, or also get testing discounts to get for your FE and PE exams. They don't know that, but we offer that as an organization. So letting them know what they currently have, and then finally writing the vision. Tell them where we want to go as an organization and how this increase will actually impact them. So I think that those 3 steps will help us to make that message more clear of why.
All right. Great, thank you. As a result of the coronavirus, if we're not able to have our annual convention in August, what are your plans to help the PEB NSBE financially?
So, in this, I love this question, because I actually think that we might not, because of how things are going right now. So first thing first, I would definitely work with our programs zone through my chair-elect role, and trying to brainstorm some opportunities for us to make money. One of those is working with organizations and our NSBE members to put on trainings and charging for them. I mean, that's immediate and it's virtual. And so I'm really game about grabbing some certifications during this time working at home. And I know that other members would definitely be willing to do that as well. I also think that revamping and offering multiple opportunities for these virtual career fairs throughout the year. I hate this idea of us just saying we can only recruit for NSBE at FRC and at annual convention. Why not having a monthly virtual career fair and charging some of our partners and corporate partners to come in and do that? So those are just 2 things that, I've been kind of thinking in the back of my head that we could do.
Okay, great. So as the manager of the PEB Professional Executive Board, how will you manage the working relationship of the PEB? And what will you do with the program zone specifically to develop the national PEB beyond MTM and NLC?
So, I think that's good, because one of the things that I enjoyed this year is working with my membership zone, and we were locked, tight, solid. And one of the reasons why is because we gave each other's permission to let our hair down. And so some of the things that I'm looking forward to, even in this virtual world, is when we are on our calls within zones and out of zones, is, hey, turn on your camera, let me see you. Let me see, what's going on. Yes, let your child run in the background so that we can see you, because that actually makes you real, and it makes you a personable person. And so I think engaging more, if we have to do it in this virtual space, is what's important, in making sure that happens. And then also scheduling non-NSBE related phone calls. I think that that's important. I want to pick up the phone and call, say, our membership chair, Eric Bryan. Eric, we're not going to talk about NSBE in this call. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what you're doing and how, you know, how we can assist each other in providing advice for both my life and his. So I think those are some good strategies and opportunities to build on that relationship that we have as a PEB.
Right. With your personality style, how do you manage, or how do you plan to engage and lead the PEB board in order to execute the mission deliverables?
So first things first, with my personality style, I can say that very seldom have any of the PEB seen me angry. They've seen me frustrated. And so that's something that is a part of who I am. I get frustrated and I see it as an opportunity and a challenge. And so I'll maintain that type of fashion where if a challenge comes, I'm always proactive and ready to move. I have a sense of humor. I joke a lot. And so I want to bring that into our relationship to lighten up things. There's a time for business and I'm definitely going to promote that. But then there's a time to kind of be a little bit laid back and bring some humor into the situation. And so I believe that element of my personality will definitely stick out a little bit. And then also just who I am as a person. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And so I think that that's going to be something that I communicate to the PEB, that what I'm asking you to do, I've either done it or I'm doing it right now. And so that's going to be important for me to communicate.
Yeah, speaking of action steps, what action steps do you plan to implement to help move to places of prestige, power, and prominence?
So one of the first things that I would do is to first improve the communication and the relationship that we have with the NEB, and that's with all counterparts. So my very first directive to all of my PEB members as chair-elect would be to go out and reach out to your counterpart and begin the process of developing a relationship. And so, because we can't just be all like PEB or the professionals by ourselves. We have this big organization that we have to take them along with us in prestige, prominence, and power. And so that's the first step. The second step is to actually advocate, use some of the WHQ staff to go out and see what it is that we need to do to be recognized on some of these higher platforms. How can we be one of the contributors on CNN? How can we be recognized or get one of our members to be recognized as a Kennedy Honors in Kennedy's Honors recognition? How can we put another one of our members and be recognized in an Image Award or Black Girls Rock, all of those kind of platforms. So utilizing our tools and talents at WHQ to begin to reach out and go and find out how we as an organization can be moved to those areas.
Okay. While there's lots of great things we can do, you know that NSBE is not without its challenges. So given your perspective on, or give us your perspective on NSBE's operational challenges and give an example of how you might address one of those challenges during your tenure in the chair-elect or chair role.
I mean, I just kind of spoke to that a little bit. Our biggest challenge is actually getting out of the mindset that we are a second-rate entity as a part of this organization. I feel that is an inward perspective as well as an outward perspective. That the professionals are in some way lesser. And I've had a lot of communication with a couple of the NEB members on this in fact. And so I think that improving our dialogue, so we can build relationships, but we have to have some serious dialogue with our NEB members so that they can understand how important it is to have a NSBE professional or kind of wing of our organization, and then they can ultimately communicate that down. And so that's the first thing in order to do that. And so I'm going to start that day one, if I'm given this opportunity, by reaching out to whoever the vice chair would be in order to make sure that they can communicate and they understand, and we have these serious and crucial conversations about
Right.
how we feel as a professionals, what our brand is, and how we perceive that the collegiates look at us, and then the reverse. And so having that crucial conversation, I think is critical in getting over the operational difficulties that we have as an organization.
Right. Yeah, it's believed that the student-run model is hurting the professional demographics. Do you believe in the student-run model, and how could it be improved in favor of the professionals?
Yeah, and I'm gonna kind of get into that, and I love this question because it's allowing us to be honest about this. Right now, yes, it's hurting us as a professional organization, but I only think that it's hurting us because of the current perspectives of the leaders on the collegiate side. And so I'll give you an example of me having a discussion with the collegiate, and I'm asking them straight up, why is it that you all don't include us and help in making decisions and bringing us more to some of these conversations? And they flat out told me that, hey, you all had your time as collegiate members, and so let us have an opportunity to lead. And my immediate response was that, yes, you can lead, but sometimes you need assistance, you need guidance. I didn't know everything when I was your age, and so allow me to mentor you. I don't want to take over. I just want to mentor you and make sure that you're developing so that you can be excellent and exceed, as many of our professionals have done so in this in their careers. And so really just talking and being real and tearing down all of those facades and having true conversations is what's going to get us out of this idea that the student model doesn't work. Because when you ask corporations and companies, they say that's the one thing that separates NSBE from all of these other affinity groups, the idea that students do all of this. And so I think that there's a way for us to get around some of these difficulties and pushing and pressing towards, some of the things that I've talked about in my platforms of prominence. But we first got to get everybody on the same page.
I'm going to another two questions popped up. I'll try to allow it if you can answer them quickly as possible. What are the professional NSBE members' cultural responsibilities?
Definitely, whatever a lot of these issues that surround us, as far as making sure that we have a voice in some of the decisions that are coming up at the precipice of our nation, making sure that we are advocates of STEM and bringing forth minorities, increasing the number of minorities in STEM. That's one of our biggest cultural responsibilities. And also definitely bringing engineering to our communities is another cultural responsibility that we have. Many people don't know that. A lot of people in our communities don't know what engineering is. So those are two highlights that I think as NSBE professionals, we need to work on and continue to work on.
Great. What are your thoughts on encouraging and recognizing NSBE lifetime members more versus just throughout the reception and national conventions? What are added value proposition and benefits?
I definitely agree with you that the NSBE lifetime member demographic is the most underutilized demographic. These are individuals who said that, hey, we are willing to make a lifetime commitment. And in doing so, a couple of things, you recognize them for that, but when they say they're making a lifetime commitment, you put them to the test. And so bringing them in as ambassadors, representatives of the organization, we don't need our executive director going to all of these different places all over the country because, I mean, that's completely unreasonable to ask him to do so. Utilizing these lifetime members, if you're in an area and they have a request, what better person to come and speak about our organization than individuals who said that I believe in this organization so much so that I'm willing to make a lifetime commitment. So utilizing them, their just representation, also their expertise. A lot of lifetime members are just really exceptional. So when we maybe creating a subject matter expert database, we can work with the SIGs to do that, and making sure that we pull our lifetime members as truly our ambassadors, both technically, culturally, as well. So that would be what I would say to do for our lifetime members. Not necessarily recognition is great, but utilization is even better.
Well, thank you. And I do appreciate the shout out as an exceptional lifetime member. I do appreciate that. And we'll have one last question, and this is from our chair-elect. As you mentioned earlier, the primary role of chair-elect being the board manager, what is your view on the accountability of the PEB board members? What accountability measures worked well for you, or worked well this year, in your opinion? And what are your ideas on areas of improvement?
So one of the accountability measures that I think worked well this year is our PEB 365. And basically it was a living document that I like to call it, where the PEB members charted out their path for the future, and there were, monthly checkpoints where they updated. And then bi-monthly, every other month, they would sit down with the chair-elect to go over and through in order to track progress and where we can, where the chair-elect could assist in any way. And so I definitely think that that is a tool that we must continue to utilize. To improve upon that tool, I absolutely think that we need to communicate a little bit more that, hey, don't just look at yours and make sure yours is great. Start to look at other people's tools and actually making it a point to request that our members do that. As far as other accountability, I think that setting things, setting expectations early on, and creating a calendar maybe for our PEB so that they can understand these are the monthly things that we should do. And if you foresee in any reason why you won't be able to do that, let us know ahead of time, because a lot of times accountability is perception. And so you might have something really, really bad going on in your life, but then you're unable to attend. Just communicating, you don't have to tell us the details, but just tell us what's going on so that we can then communicate to the board, because everybody else is looking at each other to see what we're doing. And, it's very important for us to foster a level of accountability across people within the board so that they know, oh, if she's doing what she's doing, then I'm going to make sure I do what I'm doing. And so that's important.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who posed the questions. I hope that you were able to learn much more about our chair-elect candidate, Dr. Onisha Worthy. Well, with this, I'll give you about another 60 seconds or so. I'll make sure to start the clock this time to give us your closing statement.
So I'll be very quick. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for your engagement. I love that. And I love the types of questions that were coming out, because they really, really focus on where I would like to see our organization go. But also it actually makes me happy to see that we're aligning as an organization from a leadership standpoint and from a membership standpoint. And so I'm very encouraged to see all of the candidates that were presented before you today. I get excited about their platforms, whether it's Victoria's vision to bridge the gap between the collegiate and professional, Yosef's desire to make sure that the finance zone collaborates well with the collegiate finance zone, Alexa's desire to create more communication between the admin and finance zone, Townsend's web of communication, which I love, and even our chair-elect, Camila Majid, who is focused so much on just engaging with the members. I see so much hope, so much prosperity in the future for NSBE professionals, and I hope that you would give me the opportunity to join you on that journey. So thank you so much for all of your questions.
Great, thank you, Dr. Worthy, and thank you to all of the candidates for participating in this forum, and to all of those of you who have attended and asked questions. We still have a little bit more left. I want to move on to the next part of this session. And I just wanted to reiterate this to the delegates. So delegates will receive an email with a username and password to vote in our e-ballot voting system. So that email, you should receive that email after 4 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon. You will get your login as well as your all your login information, and then you'll be able to see all the open ballots that you can vote for. So whether it be national or regional ballots, if you get an email from regional a parliamentarian or regional representative that will also give you credentials to log in and vote in that particular ballot. The ballots will be open starting this afternoon, and voting will continue until March 31st. So this will give the delegates an opportunity to communicate with their chapter members and to talk about what you heard today from the candidates and decide on how you plan to vote. You will have the options to vote for any of the candidates that you heard from today, or you may choose that you do not want to vote for a candidate, or you may abstain from voting altogether. And so you can, if there is displeasure in any of the candidates, I hope that's not the case, but then you can also choose not to vote in that sense. If there are any questions about the voting, you can email me, and my email will be shown in a few minutes here at the last slide, but it's basically the PEB parliamentarian@nesb.org. So that is it for our candidate Q&A, and we're going to have a couple of announcements and updates from the chair. So Chair Hudson, I would like to pass this back over to you for some of those announcements. Are you with us? Chair Hudson?
Yes, I'm here.
Here we go.
All right, thank you, Dr. Archer, and thank you guys, all the candidates and all of you guys. I think we might have plateaued at like 115 or 110 or so as far as participants. I think I feel that this virtual opportunity has gone very well. I think better than could be expected. So I thank you guys for all of your questions, staying engaged for the full time. This has been pretty awesome, man. You guys really challenging our candidates, and I'm really excited to see how the vote turns out. So thank you again. What I wanted to do is just spend some of the time that we have here to actually give some announcements of what has been progressing to date as we move forward with planning the 2020 conference in Austin, San Antonio, as well as the PDC announcement, things of that sort. So if you have not seen it, hopefully everybody has. I know the convention committee put out a Q&A to answer some of the questions that have been asked about the convention. Some of them are related directly to the convention and our sponsors and partners. Some of it's directed to the membership. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I mean, this is just a brief snapshot of what has been stated. We should all be aware of the dates now, being August 19th to the 20th for the convention. The city of San Antonio, and actually the state of Texas, from a government standpoint, has been declared, I don't know the official terminology, but due to the COVID-19, it has a government declaration on the city. So with that being said, some of the obligations that we had contractually with the convention center and the hotels, we don't have to, we're not upheld to those same obligations. So we do have some leniency to make some modifications and actually renegotiate contracts and things of that sort. And the convention planning team is actually doing that as we speak, trying to just get the best rate and maximizing some of the revenue that may be lost or deferred to other areas. So not necessarily a silver lining, but I guess from a positive perspective, that was good. We're not actually losing on what was previously contracted. And then, there will be registration needed again for the conference. I know there is a link that's in this FAQ that for those who want refunds or transfer of payment and things of that sort. Airlines is just giving suggestions. Please, if you have not yet, the airlines have been making accommodations for those who have purchased tickets and can't travel to provide with credits. I know at the initial shock, it was a little more challenging because all the airlines weren't on board, but by now I think most of the major carriers do have some kind of policy in place for credits. So really reaching out to them directly. If you still have some, well, heck, the conventions was this week, so hopefully you've done that already. Go to the next slide. Like I say, some of this stuff is dated already due to the conference being this past week. But from an exhibitor's perspective, we're working with those teams to make sure that they are engaged with not just the August opportunity, but the virtual career fair, which is upcoming. So just if you have the FAQ in your email, please refer back if you have additional questions. So just information to come. You can go back, Dr. Archer. We plan on, this was a business meeting to really work on the candidacy and actually try to level set. But, doing NSBE business, we still have an upcoming town hall where we want to provide you as the members information of what has happened over the past year. I think the last time we had a chance to address you guys was at PDC or either the virtual town hall that I provided earlier in the year. But we want to do the same thing, touch bases with you as the year has progressed, and also giving Camila an opportunity to actually let you know what's coming up for the future. Meaning the fund development team and the finance zone, is currently ironing out what our virtual career fair would look like, what kind of software we'll be using, what dates and things will happen. So originally it is scheduled to be in April, but I know that sometime this soon, possibly this week, there'll be some additional communications going out to provide you as members more information about that career fair, more detailed information about when it would be and platforms and things of that sort. So keep on the lookout for that. That should be coming this week. Also, what should be coming is just an FAQ similar to what went out for the national convention, an FAQ answering some questions about PDC 2020. That was a very hard decision to make, but we also know that you guys still have similar questions about refunds and things like that. So I'll take some of those questions now, but that FAQ will be coming out, and then just updates about Convention 2020 as we figure out how it looks on the grounds. We will have to just kind of give members brief updates on what the planning looks like, what the programming looks like, how we can still incorporate some of our professional development programming into TPC. So this is, again, I say it's dynamic. There are structured calendars that we're trying to set up, but we're really just getting the information out to you as soon as possible, as soon as we're able to make sure we touch points with all parties involved and making sure we still give our NSBE membership access to professional development and to the conference and things like that. All right.
Looks like I think we have a few minutes for questions. If you would like to take a couple of questions, Mr. Chair.
Yes, let me do this as well, Dr. Archer. I got an email. Well, let me make sure the questions aren't the same ones from the email. No, I'll take these, but I got an email with 4 questions that I want to address as well.
Okay, why don't we start with those? If any questions show up, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But we do have time, folks, all the attendees, to take 2 or 3 questions.
Oh. Okay. This came from, these are 4 questions that came from one person, really regarding the proposal 6, which was dealing with the membership dues increase. So I'll read each one and then provide you the answer that I have to date. In regards to the proposed membership dues increase, has recent consideration been taken with given downturns and people being laid off from jobs due to the COVID-19 epidemic? Certainly. Conversation is going on and has been going on about that. One of the pluses about whether this stays on, but because this remained on, is that any vote yay or any vote for improvement at this Senate hearing really takes effect the following year. So let's just say this does pass, you won't see an increase this year. The increase will go into play the next NESB fiscal year, which would be August of 2022. I'm sorry. So with that being said, we do actually have.
Can't really hear you. Can't really hear what you're saying.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll be short with it because I don't know when it cut off, but it won't take effect the immediate NESB year. So we do have a year time frame to actually recover from any changes from a financial perspective. So God willing, that does give us sufficient enough time to actually recover from that. There was another question that kind of ties to the same answer, and it was basically saying what's the timeline for this to be implemented when passing? So that answer is for 2 of those 4 questions. The third one would be, were there considerations taken in doubling the national professionals dues that it may decrease professional membership moving forward? Yes, again, with any change in monetary contribution, whether it be dues, whether it be how we price our conventions, you have to take that in consideration. You know, some people will see the increase as a need to the society and continue providing for the mission in both physical and monetary capacity. Some will opt out for a minute and feel that, you know, that at this current time, that financial piece can't be met. But it does not really alleviate the need and why we needed to do that, which I can discuss a little bit after I answer the questions. So it has been considered and weighing the pros and cons, but as a final determination, we felt that there were more pros to actually make that increase. And then the last question was that it states that membership feedback was solicited for this proposal. Do you have matrix breakdowns of the members that were communicated with, and what was the medium used to get feedback? Talking with the NEB, the group and the bodies, they've actually shared this with all 6 regions during the FRCs. This was a heavily led NEB supported proposal holistically. So the matrix and the members that were contacted in this resource and used in this preparation were members that were talked to during the FRC period. So all 6 regional chairs had an opportunity to bring this up during the regional meetings and have deliberation and conversation on that. So hopefully that answers those questions. So Dr. Archer, I will now, do we have some questions? We have always had two or so questions on here.
No, we haven't had any questions come up on the Q&A yet.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And if there are no other questions, it doesn't look like there are. Oh, we have a question from Richard White. Since the convention will be in August and chapter and regional leadership should be more stable, will there be a greater focus on chapter chartership, leadership development, those types of things?
The best I can say is that we can make that a focal point, providing that with those who are moving forward with the planning for that. Again, there will be a need for a lot of recovery right now, and really setting processes in place for this new normal. But I think that should be a focus throughout the year and not just at the national convention. So I would take that question more as a suggestion, Richard, to actually have more focus on chaptership leadership development. And thank you for that.
Yeah, the recording will be available this afternoon So you can look out for that. How would you challenge the professional members to aid in supporting this new number? I'm assuming, is that the dues number or?
Yeah, I don't really know what the number is. I'm thinking it may be the dues number, but I'll take the next question if that anonymous person can kind of clarify.
Yeah, with the potential professional membership dues increase, and with some regions having dues, some chapters having dues, has PB considered strategy for a combined and standardized members' dues covering all levels? Also, if professional members' dues increase, will any of those funds go to the chapters?
Thank you for that question, Arthur. I smile because the complexity of it is to answer your question directly. Yes, and I'll go over in verse. Yes, the funds do impact the chapters. I'm reading the question. Combining standards. Yeah, yes, we do know that chapters actually have chapter dues as well. So it does impact that. More standardized processes, it's constantly in communication. We have to see how that works with this new platform that we're working with the website. The whole reason, or one of the main reasons that this is taking even a more extended time is it's just not a website update. It's a back-end infrastructure. So in previous years, to actually have a one-stop shop, and I'll use this because my chapter always asks about it, but a one-stop shop to have all of your dues collected in one place, and then also disseminated to the chapters on a regularly scheduled basis. We didn't have a good infrastructure system to actually take that on, which makes sense, but it is a lot of programming planning behind it. What I do know is that information was provided when we did research of this new platform, and having the potential capability to do that was in part of the research. What I can't answer is if we can do it yet, because we haven't seen the platform, we haven't actually troubleshooted. But what I can offer you is that is in constant conversation to actually make a standardized process to possibly make a better flow of collecting dues. I just would say continue to ask those questions as we roll out this new system. Continue to address the needs to have that, because personally, I think if we can actually do that, it will make a lot of things more smoothly. And lastly,
so the question was repeated. So you mentioned we're navigating a new normal, not new numbers, a new normal. And how would you challenge professional members in helping transform the organization during this new normal?
Oh, okay. Just continue to be agile. From a support perspective, support your chapters. Continue as well to be active as it pertains to this dues increase. Please note that this is not just a random number that we're pulling out. Just from just giving a little bit of information, just from inflation and then actually growth of NSBE. That $50 that we spent in 08 is now at $85 with almost a $10 increase in inflation, and then a $20 increase in just the normal, just from our membership increasing from what it was in 09 to 19. So that puts us at about an $85 mark. And then with the dues increase, you have to plan towards the future and not plan for right now, mainly because it takes a full year for it to impact. Then you have to plan for the future activities and things that you want to do. So with the establishment of the Ed Barnett Scholarship Endowment, this is all stuff pre-COVID-19, but with the establishment of that endowment, the professionals now have a direct $100,000 endowment that we are operating on to provide scholarships for all demographics within NSBE, which is something that the society doesn't have, that we have to support with assistance. With the increase of the Engineering Career Academy, these are some opportunities that we have to provide leadership, focused, structured leadership for our collegiate counterparts, and hopefully potentially grows to a platform where we can have professional development. But these are some things. And then just with the increase in SEEK opportunities, where the increase in dues is warranted. We are not at what we, you know, our organization has grown so much since '09. These are the dollars, and hopefully this is the messaging that you're getting and you're providing out when you see the increase, that we need to get to 10K by 2025. So just continue supporting your chapter. If you have innovative ways to gain revenue, I think that's going to be key moving forward. How can we make money on a virtual platform? How can we establish partnerships virtually? These are conversations we're having internally, but I think from a chapter perspective, this may be something that we need to discuss and actually have conversations on to better support the chapters as well. That's just me brainstorming. I think this is an active conversation. So keeping lines of communication open throughout this whole process is also going to be key. So thank you for that question.
All right, thank you. That concludes our questions, and have some praise. Excellent job, thanks. And but we do not have any more questions lined up. So with that, we do have one more question that just popped up. This will be the last question. COVID-19's impact organizational survival varies on their preparedness. How have our corporate partners supported us or not supported us? Or do you know?
I can provide you with what I know, and I will also say I don't know it all, because I have not contacted all of our corporate partners. But what I can say is that holistically, they're dealing with the same situation we're dealing with as well. They have been in top communication with the society and trying to understand how we are managing, how they can support us. A lot of them really wanted to know what was going on with convention to kind of course, see how their budgetary year is impacted. But also the biggest reason is that a lot of them are advocates for NSBE, and they wanted to make sure that they can still provide within their element to NSBE, financially and being physically there. They're still interested in hiring our students and interns, but as a business owner, and you got to understand the climate, you also are in an area where people don't even know if they can hire interns virtually. So you really have to compare what we want to do or what we actually can do in that certain time frame. But the biggest thing that I know is that the majority of our partners have been communicating with us daily or regularly, and they are in support of the decisions holistically that we make, but also understanding that there is some things that are out of our control.
All right. Well, that will conclude this section, this candidate Q&A. There will be a virtual town hall, correct? At some point in here in the near future, right, Julius?
Yes.
Yeah. And I believe at that point, then we'll be able to induct all the new officers after the voting commences or after the voting completes. So we can do that at that time if time permits. But with that, congratulations to all the incoming officers, all the chair-elects that will be taking on their new positions. And with that, I thank you all for joining us. Are there any further comments you want to add, Mr. Hudson?
No, great job, Dr. Archer, for facilitating. Great job, candidates, for your time, candor, and transparency. And just you guys all stay safe, and just continue to pray for society and each other.
All right, great. Well, thank you all. Look out for the emails of those delegates, and we'll see you on the next virtual call. And don't forget that the NEB Town Hall Forum is coming up right after this event. Starts at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So please tune in for that as well, and you can learn much, much more about all of the Senate proposals. Thank you, and have yourselves a good rest of the day.